There we go. And thank you again all for being here. And for Albany Measure G, the campaign manager is our council member, Preston Jordan, but he is at a council meeting right now. So we do have one of our trustees, Becky Hopwood, with us to speak, I'd say maybe 5-10 minutes on the measure. And take questions if you would. So does that sound all good, Becky?
Sounds great. Thanks, Nick.
All right. Go ahead.
Well, thanks so much, all of you, for having me here to present, to seek an endorsement for Measure G. I know some of you, some people I recognize the names of, but haven't met all of you. So Measure G is going to be on the March 5th ballot, as you all know. Hopefully you've received a mailer in the last few days from the school district that outlines some of the information about this measure. We voted as a school board to place this on the ballot. We voted unanimously back in November, and it would be a measure to replace the current parcel tax, Measure B, which was passed in 2020 and is due to expire in 2026. That generates about $2.2 million a year for our district, and it costs homeowners $490 a year at the moment, with an annual increase. That's a flat rate parcel tax, as I'm sure you will know, and parcel taxes are generally regressive. And we consulted with a firm who, as you know, conducted a survey in the community, and we have decided to go with a square foot parcel tax for Measure G. And Measure G will be a 55-cent per square foot parcel tax with an annual 3% COLA. It would be $25 per undeveloped parcel, and it would be in perpetuity. There's no sunset on this tax. So most homeowners in Albany, well, small homeowners won't notice a big difference. If you have a home of around 900 square feet, there'll be no increase. The average home in Albany is 1,300 square feet, so you'd be looking at $715 a year. Now, the reason we decided to go with this kind of progressive parcel tax is that often parcel taxes are burdensome on homeowners, and this would allow big corporations like Target and Sprouts in Albany to pay their fair share. So people living in small homes in Albany would notice a small increase or a slight or no increase, and people who own bigger homes will pay more than they are currently. The reason that we are seeking to replace Measure B is that our operating costs in the district have increased. Our utilities, our health insurance, and we are looking at the moment at a deficit next year that we need to address of over $2.5 million. So we have decreased funding. The governor just announced his budget last week, and it wasn't catastrophic, but it's not great news for us. So a very small COLA for next year. We would like to use these funds to retain and hire exceptional teachers. We have fantastic teachers in the district at the moment. We want to protect programs, our science, math, arts, reading and language instruction, and music, art and theatre programs, and we want to maintain small class sizes. We're committed to that. Most of our funding in California comes from the state. So most of our funding, in Albany comes from the state. So 82% of our funding. And because most of our students are not high need, we are not eligible for certain types of funding. So we generate much less per student in revenue than our neighboring districts. So just to give you an idea, Albany students' revenue is $15,681 per student. Emeryville is double that, 32,500. Berkeley, 22,000. Oakland students get almost 25,500. So we are really lagging behind. The state average actually is 18,793, which is more than $3,000 greater than our per student revenue. So we're just trying to help to sort of redress the balance a little bit, just to increase our funding and give our kids what they deserve. Albany kids basically meet or exceed academic standards. Our superintendent likes to say that we do a lot with a little, and that's true, but you know, there comes a point where we can't keep trying to sort of eke out this deficient funding. So Measure G would really help. It would help us, we wouldn't have to make the $2.5 million in cuts, which would inevitably mean losses to staffing positions, to programs. We need to make those decisions by March of this year, by the 12th of March, actually, which is just a week after the election. So we'd be looking at cutting programs, cutting staff. So we really do hope that this measure passes. It would generate $4.8 million a year. Currently, Measure B generates 2.2 million. So it's a significant increase. If this were passed, Measure B would cease at the end of June of this year, and Measure G would replace it on the 1st of July. So they're absolutely not going to be operating simultaneously. Just trying to think if I've missed anything else. Yeah, so basically increased costs to running the district and decreased revenue. So currently we have about 11% of our revenue is from parcel taxes. So it's a really necessary amount. Just to give you an idea, we only get 2% in federal funding. So it's quite a significant chunk. And as I said, just to offset those state reductions in funding as the governor tries to balance the budget, which we know is a $68 million deficit right now, even though he's using some rainy day funds to sort of counter that. So an endorsement from Albany Democratic Club would be really appreciated. We know that a lot of voters, when they vote late towards election day, rely very heavily on community groups and endorsements to help make their decision. This year, the ballots are being mailed out starting February the 5th, so a month before election day. So an endorsement from your organization would mean that we can actually publicize that on our materials, on our campaign materials. And we think that it's a very reassuring organization to influence community members. And I would love any questions. If there's anything that I've missed or that you would like to know about, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Becky. So I think we'll go ahead and ask people to raise their virtual or real hands so I can call on you in turn. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask of Becky? Yes, and I know you're not Jesse, but
No, hi Nick, I'm Allison.
Allison.
Can you remind us what the difference is between Measure B and Measure J?
So Measure J was introduced in 2009. It packaged up 3 existing parcel taxes at the time, and it's an in perpetuity. It's $555 a year with an annual increase. In terms of what that funds versus what Measure G funds. So were you saying between Measure J and Measure B, or Measure J and Measure G?
J, well, either one. I mean,
right. So Measure G, the one that we're proposing, is specifically to fund teachers and protect certain programs. It doesn't go to administrators' salaries. It would have oversight. So Measure J, as I say, is before my time. I know what the amount is and the fact that it actually sort of replaced 3 previous existing parcel taxes, but I'm not sure what the difference would be in funding, but I'm happy to find out whether that actually funds different things or whether it's just an additional source of revenue.
thank you.
But one thing I should mention also, as on the topic of Measure J, actually, is that we know, all of us obviously, that Golden Gate Fields is ceasing to operate in the end of June this year. We currently generate we get $590,000 from Golden Gate Fields via Measure J. So if that land, and we don't know obviously, if that land is sold on to a non-profit or a government entity, we won't see that funding, at least not all of it. So that would have a further impact on a budget that we're really trying very hard to balance at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Allison. Thank you, Becky. Amy?
Yeah, if this replaced Measure B, which sunsets, why did you go with an in perpetuity instead of a sunsetting after a certain point?
That's a really good question. So the reason for that is that this measure the revenue would be used to pay for teachers effectively and programs, and we don't see that those needs will ever sunset. They're never going to cease. So we just felt that this is more realistic. It helps to budget for future needs. Obviously, any parcel tax that does not have a sunset it's possible to repeal it. But yeah, it just felt that these are such critical and fundamental needs for the district to ensure student success that we just didn't see us sunsetting those needs. So that's why we just wanted to match them effectively.
All right. Thank you for that question, Amy. Anyone else with a question? Yes, Brian.
Yeah, I know with the city, if it's raising a ballot measure like this, if it's earmarked for a specific thing, it has to be a higher threshold than if it just goes in the general fund. Is this like that? And if so, like which of these is it most like? And if it goes into the school district's general fund, how is the school district going to ensure that it actually ends up being spent for the things that it says it's going to be spent on?
Right. So when you talk about the threshold, you mean in terms of passing it, for voters to pass it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a 2/3 majority, as all school district initiatives for special taxes have to be 2/3. It would go into the general fund. There would be oversight. So we can have an oversight board. We would like there to be accountability. We want to ensure that this is spent on the, the needs that we've identified for it. As I said before, it's not being spent on administrator salaries. This is for teachers and programs, and there would absolutely be accountability and oversight.
Thank you for the question, Brian. Anyone else? Oh, Cheryl?
Wait, you just mentioned oversight. Is there oversight built into the measure? I didn't hear exactly
Yes.
what the oversight is, though.
Sure.
What's the oversight? Is there oversight? Just a second. Is there going to be a separate oversight committee, or what exactly is the oversight?
So that's a really good question. That's to be determined. But yes, I think the likelihood is that it would be an oversight committee, and it would be an independent committee.
Okay, so I have a follow-up. So I think that's really important to make sure that the voters know that, and that's somehow carved out, because we've been asked so many times to pay for what seems to me to be the same thing over and over again. And I'm going to say this is the infamous church roof fund. Anybody who goes to church knows what I'm talking about. You keep getting asked to pay for the church roofing fund, and 30 years later, the church still doesn't have a roof, and you keep paying for the church roofing fund. I would say it needs to be made plain and simple that there's going to be an independent oversight committee that makes sure this money goes to where you say it's going to go to, and that there's some accountability and transparency that comes back to the community. Thank you.
I agree completely, and I totally understand your church roof analogy. That makes complete sense. So when we filed this measure with the county registrar of voters, they have a council's impartial analysis of the measure, just to make sure that it's robust. So Donna Ziegler, who's the counsel for Alameda County, acknowledges that the measure contains certain accountability provisions. So, for example, depositing the proceeds in a separate fund, that it requires a report to be filed with the district's governing board every year, that the tax is in effect. So we need to document the amount collected and how it's expended, and the status of any projects that are authorized by the measure. So I'm just trying to find, sorry, I have so many pieces of paper. Oh, here we go. So the actual ballot language refers in more detail to the oversight. I don't think it goes into the specifics of how that oversight would take place, but it's absolutely there. And if I could possibly find it here, I could actually tell you. But anyway, needless to say, I agree with you. And yes, there would absolutely be oversight, and I can follow up with more information about that.
Okay,
you.
oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for that. Was someone else trying to ask a question?
No, I just said thank you.
Oh, okay, thanks. All right. Anyone else? We should probably wrap it up soon, but if there's a last question.
Did I mention exemptions? I hope I did. I think I may have said the usual exemptions, but that's the senior citizens over 65 and low income and disabled can apply for an exemption from the tax.
Oh, that's good to hear, because I know in the past, pardon me, that there have been some issues with exempting low income folks or doing anything other than a senior exemption. So I'm glad to hear that you've got those exemptions in place.
Yeah, and I should also mention in terms of the dollar amount, so 55 cents per square foot, both Berkeley Unified and Alameda Unified this year have parcel taxes on the March ballot. Berkeley's, I think, is 54 cents per square foot, ours is 55, and Alameda is 58.5 cents per square foot. So really similar amounts. They'll just be generating a lot more revenue because obviously they're much bigger districts. But this is definitely a more progressive kind of tax that I think will probably be implemented more in a more widespread way as we move forward.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. If you are a dues-paying voting member, you can stay later on after we finish the judge forum, and we can have discussions about both Measure G and the judges. So thank you very much, Becky, for coming and speaking with us.
Thanks everyone so much. I'll leave. Bye-bye.
All right, take care now, and
Bye.
thanks again. All right, so let me get back to my agenda. Well, here we go. All right, that was just Albany Measure G. We're going to head into the Alameda County Superior Court Judge Forum now, and I do believe I saw both candidates here. Yes, I believe they are here. We are often asked to vote for judges on our ballots. Oftentimes, it's just we're asked just to tick off a name, and there's no competition. But if for one of the particular seats, and forgive me that I don't know offhand which it is, we do have some competition. So two candidates have come forward to compete for this Superior Court judge race, and we're going to have them speak to us. The format is going to be that they are both going to give us a 2-minute opening statement. Then we have some club prepared questions for each of them, and they'll each be given 1 minute to answer the question. And then we'll ask the audience if they have any questions for the judges as well. And so I want to start by thanking the candidates very much for coming and speaking with us today, taking the time to speak and answer questions. And I do see that candidate Fickus has turned on his camera, and where's my other, Michael Johnson has sent a representative, I see. Very good.
And if I just gonna note that I'm gonna be playing the timer, and when the timer is going, you should be able to see it in your upper right hand corner, upper bar. So I just want to let you know that that's where to look for to see how much time you have left.
And Brian, thank you, Gabi, and Brian is helpfully put in the chat that it is seat number 12 that we are discussing tonight.
Yes.
And so I am going to arbitrarily pick the Michael Johnson representative to go first, since that person is first in my list. And we'll follow that by the statement by Mr. Fickus. And so maybe before we start the timer, if you could just say who you are and that you are representing Michael Johnson.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Kimberlin. I am a Assembly District 24 delegate, and I am a Tri-City Dem and on the Michael Johnson campaign. And happy to be here tonight to represent.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that. I didn't get that information previous. So with that, let's begin. You have a 2-minute opening statement.
Okay, great. And I think also I will probably just be able to read what he has said and not be able to respond to questions, if that's okay.
All right. Very good. We'll have to roll with that.
Okay, thank you. So this is in the words of Michael Johnson, candidate for Alameda County Superior Court, seat 12. I have been licensed to practice law for the past 33 years. I am also licensed to practice before the U.S. Supreme Court. I have worked on hundreds of cases in both the trial courts and before regulatory bodies. I am proud to have established broad legal experience in the areas of consumer law, real estate, civil, corporate, criminal, healthcare, data privacy, AI, telecommunications, media, government, and regulatory law, just to name a few, in the courtroom as well as the boardroom. And for the past 4 years, I've run my own courtroom as a temporary judge in the Alameda County Superior Court, certified to hear traffic, civil harassment, family, and small claims matters. I am proud to have earned the reputation of being efficient, pragmatic, hardworking, knowledgeable, a careful listener, and most importantly, that I reach fair decisions. I am honored, Michael Johnson is honored to and proud of the many endorsements that he has received from current retired Alameda County Court judges and judges from other counties. He's also proud and honored that Alameda County Superior Court presiding judge Charles Smiley, who has personally observed him in court, has stated that his work as a temporary judge ranks among the finest in the Alameda County Superior Court. For decades, going back to Michael's voice, for decades, I've spent my legal career helping Alameda County residents in their moments of hardship to secure legal equality and access to justice, not only as an attorney and temporary judge, but in my capacities as past president and member of the Alameda County Bar Association. Oops, I can't see it. Is that a warning?
Yeah, that was
Time's actually up. If you have a few more words, go ahead, but otherwise your time is up.
Okay. Oh, my stars. Okay, so he's an African-American raised by a maternal grandmother, taught only to not be accountable for actions, but to persevere through life struggles and always have compassion for others in their times of need. And his website is www.johnsonforacjudge.com, www.johnsonforacjudge.com. Thank you for your time tonight.
You're welcome. And we can give the other candidate a little extra time as well with the opening statement. And I don't know if you understand that there's also a 1-minute closing statement that you can stay for as well. Will you be staying for that? Okay, great. And then I understand that you are not able to answer the questions, but so what we'll do is we'll just have Commissioner Fickus then answer all the questions. But if there is something that you want to answer or something you want to interject, just feel free to perhaps raise your hand, and we'll allow you to speak. And then at the end of the questioning, you'll both give your 1-minute closing statements. Okay, with that, we go to Commissioner Fickus for his opening statement.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. I'm not seeing my time, so hopefully I'll figure that out. But my name is Commissioner Mark Fickus. I am a commissioner with the Alameda County Superior Court. According to the statistics compiled by the California Judicial Council, in fiscal year 2022, 80% of all criminal filings filed in courts throughout the state of California were heard in traffic courts. According to the same Judicial Council statistics, more than 60% of all filings are heard in traffic court. Why does that matter? It matters because in March of 2023, I was appointed to serve as a commissioner of the Alameda County Superior Court, which is the job I currently hold, and I'm currently assigned to a traffic court. What that means is that essentially, in terms of just sheer numbers, I am the face of the criminal justice system, and indeed the face of the justice system to an overwhelming majority of people who come into contact with our courts. In that capacity, I have to help shepherd people, many of whom have had no prior experience with the criminal justice system, many of whom are unrepresented by attorneys, navigate their way through a challenging time in their lives as they try to understand the nature of the charges against them, and they try to understand what it is that they need to do in order to bring their case to a reasonable conclusion. My goal is to make sure that everyone is treated with dignity, with respect, that they have a day in court, and that they are afforded due process of law. I'm very proud to say that I've been endorsed by the Alameda County Democratic Party. I have been endorsed by SEIU 1021, which is the union that represents many of the workers who work alongside of me in the courts. I'm happy to say that I've been endorsed by the Tri-Valley Democratic Club. And lastly, I'm endorsed by 35 Superior Court judges and commissioners in my race, which is more than, or approximately half of the total number of judges and commissioners with the Alameda County Superior Court.
Okay, thank you. And so the Gabi, could you start a timer again just to show the candidates where the or candidate reps where the timer is? So so there's Gabriel Body has a little circle in his video with the time, but it also might appear on your screen in the upper right. Are you seeing that at all, Commissioner?
Yeah, I am seeing a time thing that's counting down. It's around 40 seconds right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's where
we're
you
good. Yes,
can
thank
look
you.
for the questions. Great.
Yeah.
All right, great. So let's see. Now I need to find my questions. We'll go on to the questions, and once again, we'll just go ahead and ask them solely to the commissioner, but the representative for Michael Johnson can raise their hand anytime and also answer if they choose. So the first question is, Commissioner, given that voters generally do not know much about the backgrounds and experience of judicial candidates, how do your ballot designation and description of your legal career reflect your qualifications and character?
Thank you for that question. I'm not sure exactly how much. Oh, there I go. I've got 1 minute. So my ballot designation is Commissioner, Superior Court Commissioner, County of Alameda. And so my ballot designation and my ballot statement reflects what my current job is, namely to preside over hundreds of criminal infractions, mostly vehicle code violations every week. I also think it's important to note through my designation and through my ballot statement that I'm currently the only openly gay man to serve as an Alameda County Superior Court Commissioner. And if elected as judge, I would be the only openly gay man, or excuse me, I would be about the 4th or 5th openly gay man to serve as a judge of the Alameda County Superior Court. What I tried to do with my ballot designation is demonstrate the fact that I have more than 50 jury trials, a career in which I've practiced in both civil and criminal law, and a career in which I now serve as a commissioner. And my dedication has been rewarded by my appointment to the Judicial Council's Traffic Advisory Committee.
Okay, thank you. Next question. I think we grabbed some questions from the last time we had a judge forum. You might have already answered. I think I'm going to skip this question because I think you just answered it. I'll go into question 3. Describe some cases you've worked on that you feel will inform your time as a judge should you be elected.
Well, rather than talk about cases that I've dealt with when I was actually in private practice, I'd like to talk about a case or two, if I have the time, that have come up since I have served as a commissioner. Not very long ago, I had a young man who appeared before me who was charged with driving without a valid California driver's license. Either the judge or commissioner who had heard his case before me had told him that this young man, this was his last chance to come to court and get a driver's license. He came to my courtroom one day and he said that he didn't have his license yet. So rather than just kind of blindly punish him because he was told that he was out of options, I asked him why he thought it was that he was not able to pass his driver's license test. And he explained to me how he went about studying. I talked to him a little bit about ways in which studying might be more productive for him. I gave him an opportunity to come back to me one more time, hopefully having a driver's license. And at the conclusion of that interaction, he told me that he did not have a father and that this was the first time that anyone had given him fatherly advice and that he appreciated the effort to help him succeed. That is my approach to judging as a commissioner, and I hope it's my approach to judging if I'm elected as a judge.
Thank you. Next question. Describe a ruling from the county courts that resonated with you and how your background would help inform decision-making processes in cases like that, like the one you will cite.
Well, so that's a bit of a difficult question to answer because under the canons of judicial ethics, I really can't comment on cases or controversies that are likely to appear before me. And so it's not really within my purview to either agree or disagree with rulings that have come out from from judges who are with the Superior Court. What I'd say, though, is that after 28 years of experience in both civil and criminal law, I very much understand the importance of looking to legal precedent. I understand the importance of looking at legislative history and understanding why laws have come into being and why they exist. And most importantly, I understand that it is not my job to make law or create law or to impose my own policy preferences on a case above those beyond those which have been decided by courts of higher jurisdiction, courts of appeals, or the Supreme Court. And so in my view, really my approach to all cases and controversies before me is to look at the facts, understand them, and apply the law as I understand it to be based on precedent from higher courts.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Are there any current issues that you think will be significant themes in the courts currently or in the near future?
Well, again, I'm not permitted to comment on cases or controversies likely to come before the courts or express an opinion about them. I would say, though, that I am mindful of the expiration of eviction moratoriums throughout Alameda County. I am mindful of the department that hears unlawful detainer or eviction cases. I can say that before I became a commissioner, when I was in private practice, I did handle a unlawful detainer or eviction case. And so I feel that I'm well versed in some of the issues related to property rights, to tenant rights, and to some of the pressures that apply to the community in regards to the eviction moratorium. And I think that I'm well prepared based on my experiences to handle this kinds of challenges as they come before me, should I be elected as a Superior Court judge.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. What impacts, if any, have you noticed in your field with the election of the new district attorney, Pamela Price?
So I really don't have any firsthand information to respond to that question. Although I do preside over a calendar that hears criminal infractions, mostly vehicle code violations, but I also do hear violations of the Business and Professions Code, the Health and Safety Code, the Fish and Games Code. But in the courtroom where I preside, the district attorney is not represented. So most people come in and they are self-represented. They are represented by counsel, but on the law enforcement side, I literally only hear from people who are employed by the California Highway Patrol or the various law enforcement agencies. So on a day-to-day basis, as I think about the thousands of criminal cases, infractions that I've heard over the past 10 or 11 months, really the district attorney doesn't appear in front of me, does not represent law enforcement in those matters. And so the district attorney has no direct impact in how it is I proceed with the caveat that the district attorney's office has authorized me to reduce some misdemeanors to infractions so that I can decide those cases without sending them to somewhere else.
Okay, thank you for that. Do you have any suggestions for limiting the influence of dark money in our courts?
Candidly, no. And frankly, that's because of two things. I'm not really sure what the definition of dark money is. And secondly, as a candidate for judicial office, I'm required to comply with all the requirements of the FPPPC. So what that really means is anyone who contributes to my campaign, I filed a report to identify who that person is. And I have ethical obligations as a subordinate judicial officer if a person donates above a threshold amount in my race to disclose that in cases that might come before me in the future. I will tell you all as a matter of policy that I decided not to accept money from law enforcement because law enforcement appears in my courts routinely. And I have also turned back donations from criminal defense attorneys who have contributed to my campaign who appear in front of me, because it was my feeling that even though ethically I'm allowed to receive some of those contributions, I did not want to have any issues related with the idea that I took money from people who appear before me with any kind of regularity.
Okay, thank you for that. That's the last prepared question from the officers of the club. Are there any people in the audience who would like to ask a question? Go ahead and raise your hand, virtual or physical if you need to. Going once. Oh, we do have a question in the chat. I'd say that we're going to have closing statements, so the candidates can feel free to list their endorsements, also to paste their endorsements in the chat as well. Yeah, we do have links to the website on our Facebook page and on our homepage of our website. You can look there as well. But the candidates should feel free to highlight their significant endorsements in the closing statements. Yeah, let's see. I thought I had a question. Now I can't remember it. Anyone else? Yes, Cheryl.
I'll ask one. We work very closely in Contra Costa and in Alameda County with not just the DA's office, but with several judges on trying to deal with in racial justice oversight bodies in dealing with the very wide gap that we see with Black and brown, especially in juvenile justice system, and with those who are 26 and under, and why we see so many Black and brown bodies going through the criminal justice system. What have you done? And then for Mr. Johnson's rep, or Judge Johnson's rep, the same question. What have you done and what do you plan to do to help with that very large issue that we see in the system?
Commissioner?
I thought the question was to Mr. Johnson's rep, but
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure.
No,
I'm not sure.
Both of you. It was to both of you.
So I honestly, I do apologize. I'm not sure I understand the exact question that you're asking me.
What have you done and what do you plan to do to help reduce the large disparity, the racial gap, the racial justice gap in the justice system that we see right now with Black, brown, and other disparities that we see in the justice system? And we work very hard, the racial justice oversight bodies in Alameda County and Contra Costa County. We've been working with judges, the DA's office, to try and reduce the number of especially Black and brown youth, 26 and under, and young people coming through and the criminal justice system. And it starts with not just the DA's office, but also the judges in alternatives to criminal, to sending them through the penal system. What have you done and what do you plan to do in that regard?
So I do appreciate that question. I think on a day-to-day basis, as a Superior Court Commissioner, and if elected as a Superior Court Judge, I don't know that there are specific things I can do to address racial disparity in the system. But what I can say is in my current practice as a Superior Court Commissioner, I look for ways for reducing the way in which there can be a revolving door in and out of the criminal justice system. And by that, I mean people who pick up violations and pick up more and more violations and don't find a way to get out. For particularly youthful offenders, I have a number of diversion tools that are at my disposal to help younger people look for alternatives to just sort of the strictly penal approach to punishment. I would also note that my good friend and endorser, Judge Sharon Jamal, serves in the courts that deal with mental health and other various issues, and look at ways for diversion as an alternative to penal punishments.
Thank you. And would the representative for Michael Johnson care to answer that? You don't have to.
I think in the closing statement, I will have a little bit to address to that. So thank you very much.
Okay, great. And I just thought of a question, or you can maybe either or both of you can remind me, is this race going to be on the ballot in the entire county?
The short version is yes, this is a county-wide race, so everyone in Alameda County will vote for it.
Okay, yeah, wow, okay. That's really something that the candidates have to campaign throughout the county. Brian.
Yeah, pardon my ignorance, but is this who's the incumbent, and if there's a vacancy, why is there a vacancy? And if someone's whoever's not an incumbent, why do they think they'd be a better choice than the incumbent?
Commissioner, you want to take that first?
So I think I heard three questions, Mr. Martin, and I'm going to try to address them. First of all, the seat is open because Judge Evelio Grillo, when he was up for retention, decided not to seek a further 6-year term, and he is retiring. So that created a vacancy. I'll note that Judge Grillo has endorsed my campaign. And so I think that's the first question. There is not really an incumbent. There is a judge who's retiring and stepping down, and he's endorsed me. As for the rest of the question, I'm not sure I understand really well enough to answer it, to be honest.
Kind of what would so now thanks for that clarification. So what would you think you would do the same or different from the previous judge?
Look, I've tried cases in front of Judge Grillo. I admire him. I can't say that there's a lot I do different. I find him to be a conscientious, thoughtful judicial officer. I'm proud that he endorsed me in my own race, and I hope to continue his legacy of being a fair and impartial jurist in Alameda County if I'm elected.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Anyone else for the question?
I think that aligning with what was just said, being fair and impartial is the goal. And I'll cover more of that in the closing statement. Thank you very much for that inquiry, because it is important.
All right, thank you for that answer. All right, well, I'll do a countdown and see if there's any last questions. Going once, twice, well, 3 times the charm. So we'll move on to the closing statements, and I believe the representative went first for the opening statement, so I'll allow the commissioner to go first for the closing statement.
All right, and can you remind me how much time I have, or I'll look at the timer in a second here?
Just a minute, but we'll be flexible.
Well, I'll try to be efficient. First of all, thank you to everyone here for having me here tonight. It's amazing to reflect back and think that I met both Nick Pilch and Peggy McQuaid, who are on this call, about 4 or 5 years ago when my kids were freshmen in high school, and now my husband and I have freshmen in college. So I marvel at the passage of time as I see the faces here. I really don't want to repeat a lot of what I've said all before, other than to say that I'm proudly endorsed by the Alameda County Democratic Party. I'm proudly endorsed by SEIU 1021. I'm proud to be the only openly gay man that serves as a commissioner on this court right now. And I'm proud to say that if elected, I would be only the 4th or perhaps the 5th openly gay man to serve on the Alameda County Superior Court as a judge. I think I'd like to conclude with some words that someone else said about me rather than what I would say about myself. And this is a defense attorney who wrote an unsolicited endorsement on my website. He wrote, "Commissioner Fickus is a compassionate, kind, considerate, and quite frankly, a fantastic communicator. He has an aura about him that I have seldom seen. Having worked with him regularly for more than a year, appearing before him 3 to 5 times a week, I grow increasingly confident that Commissioner Fickus has not only the experience, composure, and commitment to justice, but also that special ingredient to be a standout judge who commands respect and upholds the law while remaining accessible and relatable to the average person. I endorse him wholeheartedly. He is a breath of fresh air." And I will just say that I do appreciate his words, because I think he's expressed things better than I could myself. Thank you, everyone, for your time this evening.
All right, thank you for that. And the representative for Michael Johnson.
Hello, everyone. I will guide you to the website www.johnsonforacjudge.com to look up the endorsements and the support, but wanted to remind you as we close out here that Michael Johnson has served as past president and member of the Alameda County Bar Association, lifetime member of General Counsel for Charles Houston Bar, a nonprofit African-American bar organization, past president of the ACBC Volunteer Legal Services, De Anza High School mentor, active member with the 100 Black Men of the Bay Area, and a volunteer in the Alameda County Lawyers in the Law in the Library Legal Clinic. So there's a lot of volunteer work going on in addition to the work that Michael does. He strongly believes that the judiciary in Alameda County should reflect the diversity of the community and provide impartiality and equal access to justice for all. It is his honor to serve as a role model for those in various underprivileged and unrepresented communities when he volunteers in the community as an attorney or when he serves as a temporary judge. He would be honored to receive your endorsement and vote on March 5th and be your next Alameda County Superior Court judge. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And thank you for being here to represent Michael Johnson. And so thank you to both of our candidates and our candidate rep. And we appreciate the time you took to join us tonight and answer questions. And we wish you both luck. And we'll be deliberating. The voting members will be deliberating later and voting on endorsements. And we will let you both know once the votes are tallied and the results are known.
It was a pleasure to be here tonight on behalf of Michael Johnson. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it was also my pleasure as well. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Good night to you both.
Night.
Okay. Well, that was efficient. We were able to get those 2 races done. And the only other things that I have on the agenda, we could add something else to the agenda, but there are 2 measures, Alameda County measures that will be on our ballot, and 1 state measure that will be on our ballot. I have not had a chance to do any research on these, but since we have extra time in the meeting, if anyone wants to say anything about these measures, that would be great. If no one else has had time to look into it, that's fine too. And then maybe we can move on to community reports before we go into our deliberations. So, but let's start with those measures. Does anyone else, does anyone know anything about these 2 county and 1 state measure that they'd like to say? If not, then I guess we all have some homework.
And to be clear, Nick, this would just be to check in about them. It wouldn't be for an endorsement vote, but we might
you.
have them on a future agenda for an endorsement.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah, if we choose to do so. But they seem to be, I didn't want to neglect them, so I thought we could at least have preliminary discussions here. If not, maybe our only discussions. If not, we can move on maybe to what we do in some of our meetings, or in what we've done in the past in a lot of our meetings, is just go around and have representatives from various appointed or elected bodies tell us what they think is, or what their body is doing, or what they think are some of the issues happening or the projects happening in town that they'd like to talk about. So.
And just as a check-in, Nick, do you want to keep recording this, or is it done to stop?
Thank you. No, we can go ahead and stop recording. Appreciate that.